When Chinese propaganda starts to seriously infiltrate politicians and, you know, various interest groups in your country, you have to start getting a little worried. Okay, so we're going to start this off with that whole... The guy's name is Matt Gaetz, right?
Yeah, I just want to preface this, but you're not... If you've already seen the Matt Gaetz thing, stick around. This is my report here.
Yeah.
I have put together something that goes way deeper than Matt Gaetz.
Yeah.
So just bear with us, and we'll show the implications of this.
Yeah, absolutely. So who is he? He's like he's a Republican.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. He's
senator.
a politician.
He's a politician. He's like a whatever. He's an important person in
US
America. Yeah, U.S. representative. Okay. So
in Florida.
So he represents the U.S.
Represent.
Yeah.
Anyway, he's in Congress here, and it's very important that you understand that he asked this to go into congressional record.
Okay.
Okay.
So Chinese propaganda has now been officially entered into U.S. congressional record.
Correct.
And what was... before we play the clip, I'll get it up here, but what was the context behind
So the
this?
context was him asking the Department of Defense appointee
Yes.
if U.S. weapons were ending up in the hands of Ukrainian far-right groups.
Like Nazi groups.
Yeah, so like, you know, the Russian propaganda.
Yes.
So what he quite literally
that's kind of
did...
That's their reasoning for invading, right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
So he's saying that by supporting Ukraine, we might be supporting Ukrainian Nazis, right? Which is Putin propaganda from Russia in Congress.
Yeah. Anyway.
Wait till you see it.
Yeah. So, and he quotes Chinese propaganda. Let's take a look at the clip.
Azov battalion getting access to U.S. weapons?
Not that I'm aware of, but if you have information,
I seek unanimous consent to enter into the record the Global Times investigative report that that talks about training. It's from the Atlantic Council's Digital Forensics Research Lab, citing that the Azov Battalion was even getting stuff as far back as 2018.
Without objection, so ordered.
Any reason to disagree with that assessment, Dr.
Is this the? I'm sorry. Is this the Global Times from China?
No, this is. Well,
that's what you read.
Yeah, it might be. Yeah, would that be a reason?
As a general matter, I don't take Beijing's propaganda.
Well, no.
At
Yeah,
face
but just
value.
tell me if the allegation is true or false. I mean,
I don't have any evidence one way or the other. As a general matter, I don't take Beijing's propaganda at face value.
Fair enough. I would agree with that assessment. April 2022.
Yeah, this guy.
We'll talk about that in a second. I just want to say something.
All right.
Okay, we can cover him first.
Come on, let's say this guy's a legend. We love this guy. This guy, just look at his face.
He's trying not to crack
matter, I don't take Beijing's propaganda.
Well, no.
at
Yeah,
face
but just tell
value.
me if the allegation is true or false. I mean,
I don't have any evidence one way or the other. As a general matter, I don't take Beijing's propaganda.
Bro's
at face value.
fair
Bro's
enough.
watching Mr. Gates' career go down the toilet.
Yeah, he's like having,
Just
he's having
not to
such a
die
good laugh.
laughing.
He's a legend, that guy.
You can say, okay, it's a legitimate question, do whatever you want, right? But what you have to understand is what he just asked to go into permanent congressional record was a study from the Chinese government's propaganda outlet run by China's influence campaign to influence English speakers. It's their English-speaking propaganda tabloid rag from the state, from Beijing.
Yes.
And he asked that to go into record.
Yeah.
Just because, and by the way, he probably didn't do enough research to realize that, but he succumbed to Russian propaganda from China. Yes. China has been aiding Russia for a very long time now, especially in regards to war propaganda. And unfortunately, the side that usually has been quite critical of the CCP, which is the Republican Party, falling very quickly prey to this Russian-China propaganda.
Yeah.
And I just want you to show the Global Times what he actually just asked to go into record.
This is the Global Times. This is what he quoted, was this. Let's take a look at some of the things on there. What are we looking at?
We got letters from Xi.
Yeah.
Reply letter from Chinese president, not a president, by the way. A dictator. Encourages armed police to let the people's in. It just goes on and on. It goes, I like this one. Powerless and ridiculous for the U.S. to cry for recognition as a regional leader. This is quite literally a English language rag from the CCP directly to make America separate from each other, to start dividing
It
from
just
each other.
insults America.
Yes.
If you want to go through this particular rag, every second article is just an attack on America and American values. I like the tops like NPC and CPPCC annual sessions 2020. Come on, can we get away from that? No, I guess not. But this Global Times, to quote this, if you're a patriot, if you're someone who cares about your country, especially American, and you're a patriot, and you're quoting this piece of shit tabloid rag from China is designed to destroy America. It's designed to sow dissent and division. That's its entire purpose. If you read, by the way, you know that there are articles about me in the Global Times.
Yep.
Where, because I made that video called "Are Chinese Girls Easy?" That's a question, by the way. It's not a statement, for crying out loud. I made that video. And they even hand illustrated a picture of me like in a suit and tie, like as like a foolish with with flowers and stuff, but I mean like evil. This Global Times piece of shit is so anti-American and anti-West, it's ridiculous. So if you're a patriot, you do not quote this thing. If you're a government official, you do not quote this thing. It's your enemy. This is literally your enemy, this newspaper here.
Now, this was probably a mistake, right? But the problem is that we've seen this happen across the board. If politicians, this is the reason we brought this up was not to say, oh, if you like Matt Gaetz or whatever, like he's an evil demon, right? Maybe it was a mistake. But at that level of political leadership, you are not to be making mistakes like that. When two YouTubers are fact-checking their stuff 10 times more than you are, that's a big problem. Yeah. And that's not the kind of person that should be running or have any sort of political sway in my country. Yeah. Obscene. Russia-China propaganda, it doesn't belong in Congress. No. Right? Unless it's to critique it and to ban it from my country. Now, here's the deal. The reason we're bringing this up is not to demonize him. The reason we're bringing it up is that if he is falling prey to this type of propaganda and bringing it up in Congress, then of course you better believe the average American is also falling prey to this, and it's not even their fault.
No, I agree.
We're never blaming the average person that falls prey to this. There's a lot of defense when people find out that their favorite political source that they're reading on Facebook or whatever turns out to be a Russian psyop. And I understand being upset at that, but it's the truth. There are billions of dollars, and this is what you have to keep in mind, that China is now spending on pro-Russia propaganda.
Do you understand that?
Billions of dollars to make sure that you, as an American, are taking China and Russia's side on this war.
And that's why we've seen, and I have to tell you, I'm very disappointed, but we've seen people on all sides of the political spectrum in America eat this stuff up. I'm talking about the far right, the far left, and people in between. Libertarians.
You're about to see that horse real quick.
Yeah, exactly. People are buying it, and it's because they feed into these divisive narratives, and they know what they're doing. It's sophisticated, and with billions of dollars behind it, of course, they're going to be successful to a certain degree.
The division thing has been around since the old times, since the Civil War. Yeah. Right? It's just how it is, right? Yeah. Then the political parties formed after that, and there's going to be different ideology on both sides, right? There's a difference, though. There's a difference when foreign governments spend billions of dollars to prey on that division. When you're simping for China and Russia unknowingly and dividing yourself between you and your neighbor, you are quite literally playing into a psyop from China and Russia. And I don't care if you're too proud to admit that, but that's the truth.
Don't you just find it hilarious how the narrative of people that latch onto this propaganda, they're always very anti their own government, right? Yeah. So they're anti the current government in the US. They have so many problems with it, but they're not anti-latching onto an authoritarian government's bullshit. So they'll take that completely without even questioning it. They'll be like, I will let another government out there tell me how I'm supposed to feel about my own government. And I will trust them, but I don't trust my own government because my government's the bad guy, not this authoritarian government that hates freedom.
Beautiful examples of this coming up.
Okay,
beautiful examples of this coming up that make me sick.
So anyway, Matt Gaetz, this is his source. This is his wonderful, wonderful source, which just one look at that front page will tell you this is some commie bullshit.
Yes.
And I hate to use the word commie because it sounds like I'm like Red Scare from the 60s or something, but there's no other way. There's no other way to describe this. There's more red on that page than there is black and white. It's just bullshit. Okay?
Are you
Letters from sheep.
Are you ready to see some effed up horseshoe theory in action?
Yeah, but before we do,
Yeah.
Last
This is
week,
a great example.
Last week we talked about this guy, Alaska Prepper, who actually read directly from the Chinese Communist propaganda website, the government website, not even Global Times or anything, but from the government website, he read out their propaganda.
He read a PSYOP article
Yes.
for American division.
Yes. And I left him a long comment on his video, and I was very fair with it. And it was also along the lines of, why would you trust a government who does not have freedom, for their own people? There is no freedom of speech. There is no, they censor and monitor their citizens and all of this kind of stuff to the nth degree. But you're willing to trust them and their propaganda department, their official propaganda department, and their attempts to sow division. You're helping them. Not only did you consume it, but you also spread it to your audience. I was very nice in the way I worded it, and I've got to give props to him. He earned my respect.
Me too.
Because he replied to my comment, and he's apparently a longtime fan, and he's watched my videos like before he even started YouTube. And he said that he made a mistake, and he admitted that he made a mistake, and he said that hatred towards what his government has done obviously pushed him in that direction. And he removed the videos and he issued an apology. So this is his redemption arc. He
made it right.
He did. He made it right. He released this video saying it's time to pay the piper.
The reason we wanted to bring this up is that why, if we're not going to blame people like Matt Gaetz for making such an egregious error in Congress, how can we expect that normal people out there like Alaska Prepper or something don't get tricked by this stuff too?
And that's the thing, is somebody who clearly is patriotic.
Yeah, clearly loves his
towards
country.
his country, is willing, well, not willing to, has fallen for the Chinese divisive PSYOP tactics and their propaganda, so much so that he's willing to sow division in his own country that he loves so much, and turn his neighbors against each other.
Yeah.
Unwittingly and unwillingly, but he is on behalf of the Chinese government. It shows you how effective their propaganda is.
Yeah.
Because if they're affecting politicians and patriots into spreading their goals of sowing division, it's outlandish. So I just want to say that big props to Alaska Prepper for
making it right.
For making it right and for realizing he made a mistake. And it's a great example of how the Chinese government takes advantage of people that are dissatisfied and who are currently in a situation where they're not happy with the way their government is going. It's so easy, because when you've got someone that's down in the dumps, you offer them a hand. You're like, oh, yeah, I know what you're feeling. Look, this is what's going on. And you can take advantage of them. And it's up to us. I'm not just talking about Americans here, because I'm not American. I'm talking about everyone around the world. It's up to us to realize that the Chinese government is not our friend. They're not out there to help us. They're out there to take advantage of us and to spread division throughout our countries because it works in their favor. So keep an eye out for it.
Get ready to see the horseshoe theory in action.
All right.
Ready for this?
Sure. Okay.
You got it wrong. Matt Gaetz is awesome. That's not what we're talking about.
Nope.
What we're talking about here is how both the right and left have fallen prey to Russia and China propaganda, and they come to meet on the most extreme ends, right in the middle.
Correct.
So do you guys remember back in the day, we saw there was a group, I believe it was called Code Pink.
Yes.
And
it's like one of those NGO, what are they, like, think tank?
Something like that. Anyway, they're like women, it looks like a women's rights anti-war thing, right? So anyway, that's not important. What's important is that there is a hearing that they busted into.
Yeah, it's a couple days ago.
And perhaps most important, the committee can help determine the combinations of policies
there will be order.
And legislation necessary to counter CCP aggression and rebuild America's and the free world's competitive advantages.
Joe McMaster, why don't you pause for a second? You'll be given additional time, and we'll take care of this. All right, General McMaster, you may continue.
Thank you. This committee, as I was saying, can help the United States.
Man, that's so annoying. You screwed up, dude.
Your
That's
sign
upside
is upside
down.
down.
And the world, we need to address that with China.
Ooh.
Yep.
Well, thank you, Congressman Geller. I think these eruptions are indicative of really the effect that the United Front Work Department has had, and maybe we can talk more about that during the course of the hearing. I think they have reinforced to some degree what you might call a bit of a curriculum of self-loathing that has taken hold in academia for many years.
Okay, so I want to point something out here.
Sure.
Okay. The people that were protesting were part of this organization called Code Pink, which came up on our radar, and I'll do a throwback in a second. But listen to this, right? The protesters interrupted the first hearing of the House China Committee, right? Which is the most rare thing ever. It's a bipartisan investigation into the nefarious deeds of the Chinese Communist Party, right? Democrats and Republicans doing a two-pronged approach to look into how the CCP is infiltrating the U.S. Now, that is cooperation that we rarely see.
I think we see how they're infiltrating the U.S.
Now, this is the crazy thing, is that, you had the dude trying to do the Stop Asian Hate to conflate criticism of the CCP, one of the most inhuman organizations of the world, with Asian hate, right? Sick, twisted ass movement. I mean, I feel like that distinction should be illegal.
Yeah.
You absolutely cannot conflate a dictatorship, an authoritarian government which hurts its own people and minority groups with anti-Asian hate abroad. That's insanity.
That's
right?
what
But
they've been trying to do for a long time. They've been trying to conflate that. And remember, there's that very famous video that we have where somebody has a Stop Asian Hate, stop the CCP. And the Stop Asian Hate people are trying to block his sign because they don't want anyone to criticize the CCP. They've hijacked the Stop Asian Hate movement.
Right. So back in the day, I had forgotten about this group, right? This Code Pink group, because back in the day, we saw them pop up on
with Li Jing Jing.
Li Jing Jing, which is quite literally, by the way, this is on Friends of Socialist China, which reminds me of those like North Korea sympathizers.
Literally, if you're calling yourself Friends of Socialist China.
It's not a socialist country, bro. They have no social programs. Anyway, go to the next picture, because Li Jing Jing, by the way, the woman on the left, is quite literally a state anchor for the propaganda department in China. CGTN, right? So if you look at this,
we know it very well.
You
should
a very clear picture.
Yeah, you should be able to.
Here.
There it is. She's a reporter for CGTN.
So they were interviewing
Code Pink.
Code Pink. The Chinese government was interviewing Code Pink.
Those people that got their message upside down.
So I'm like, what's going on here? There's people that are interfacing with the Chinese government that are in congressional hearings? That are in, not congressional hearings, but the House committees?
Yes.
The House committee speeches? So you go to their website and it's like, oh, there's this like peace, no war, and everyone get behind that, right?
Yeah,
like,
Women's Day. War, right? They hide behind this women's right type stuff.
But then you look into it and it's like, ask President Biden to join China to promote peace in Ukraine. Bro, they're selling Russia all their stuff for the war.
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
Yeah.
It's crazy. This like pro women's rights organization is simping for the Chinese government, conflating actual anti-Asian hate attacks with criticism of an authoritarian dictatorship that literally is genociding people in Western China.
Yeah.
It's crazy. What is this timeline we're living in? Worst anime crossover ever.
Yeah, dude, this bullshit Code Pink thing, more like Code Little Pink.
Yeah, seriously.
Okay.
So I had forgotten about them. They're insane. I can't believe they popped up in such a high profile environment.
Yeah, because we did talk about them like, what, a year ago or something?
A year ago.
When we saw them pop up with Li Jing Jing.
So keep going here, right?
Okay.
So you join these peace protests and you go, okay, yeah.
It sounds wholesome. It sounds wholesome.
War in Ukraine, right?
Yeah.
Russia and China want war in Ukraine.
Yeah. Oh, what? Stop escalating war. Tell Congress to oppose Patriot missiles to Ukraine and training Ukrainian troops. So in other words, do what Russia wants.
Yes.
And
Now,
China wants.
I would give you the benefit of the doubt if you came out of here from peace side, right?
Yeah.
I'm also very pro-peace. I would align with Code Pink on the idea that there shouldn't be a war to begin with, right?
Yeah.
So you would think it means Russia, get out. NATO, all right, you can get out because Russia's going to leave and there can be peace there, right?
Yeah.
That's not actually what this is. By the way, one of their organizations here is called China is Not Our Enemy, and it's Stop Asian Hate, which means if you protest against the CCP, then you are Asian hate.
Yeah.
Despite the victims of the CCP being the victims of Asian hate from the Chinese government, who is tracking them down on U.S. soil and harassing them.
China, the Chinese government is the most anti-Asian organization in the world. They've killed more Asians and locked up more Asians and hurt more Asians' freedoms and rights, human rights, than any other organization in the world.
Yes.
Why don't people see that?
Yes.
You know, they've got their police stations overseas. They're surveilling and intimidating and harassing Asians abroad.
Yes.
Chinese people. You know, so it's such a big farce. It's another one of those things where they've pulled the wool over many people's eyes. Yeah. And they've kind of just keep repeating a lie until it becomes the truth.
Well, it gets even crazier.
All right.
You keep going through this. There was this... Oh, by the way, this is their coronavirus in China section, and it's all of these like pro-CCP sources. It's super sus.
Oh, dude.
You go through that and you're like, what is this? It's like all these CCP think tanks.
I'm telling you one thing. Just at a casual glance here, I'd say that this is definitely just a CCP Russian-funded organization.
I mean,
from what I
it
can
certainly
see,
looks like. Anyway,
that's just at a glance. I'm saying at a glance.
Well, I want to
why
show you
else
what
would they be
happens
doing
here.
this stuff?
I want to show you how left meets right here.
Okay.
Okay. You could probably say that was like left order, but anyway.
That's super left wing. It's all about feminism and stuff, right?
Yeah, this
supposed
is
to be.
Yeah, so this is like Jing Jing, right? Her
Yeah.
channel. By the way, I wanted to bring up why YouTube is she not labeled as a Chinese government backed channel? Because they're supposed to have that label, right?
Yeah.
Why she's literally a reporter for CGTN.
Yeah.
Just wanted to bring that up here. Anyway, interfacing with some pro Putin pundits there. And anyway, continue.
Okay.
So there was this, our subscribers put us onto this on the subreddit.
Yeah.
There was this protest that I first saw on our subreddit, and then people were sending me clips. It was actually being promoted on like Tucker Carlson, all these places. It was big, right? Well, it was at least made
supposed to be
big.
an anti-war rally, right?
It was an anti-war rally, and it was put. I want you to read the two parties that hosted this.
Okay. Where is it?
No, just right there.
It says the Libertarian Party and the People's Party.
The Libertarian Party and the People's Party. So the Communist Party of the U.S.
The People's Party is a Communist Party?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
And the Libertarian Party,
that
the small government.
You know that reminds me of?
Put on a protest,
Oh, sorry.
right?
Yeah.
Where, and you can see that Code Pink woman right there, right?
So Code Pink is there.
So she was there, right?
Yeah.
Jimmy Dore, who's that left-wing pundit, like commentator or whatever,
Sure.
right? You had Max Blumenthal, which is that Gray Zone, that tanky newspaper or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
You had someone from Wu-Tang Clan.
Okay.
Anyway, go on to the next slide. There's more
Sure.
people that shows. And the idea was that you go to D.C. and you protest. Ron Paul was there.
Okay.
Kim Iverson. That was that Russian Z dude that in America. Jackson Hinkle. That's right.
Right.
You had these. He's a MAGA communist, by the way.
Yeah, whatever the hell that is.
Libertarians, by the way, I was a member of the Libertarian Party, which I have now left.
You better have left it.
Who, together with the Communist Party,
Yeah.
met in D.C.
Yeah.
to support Putin
Yeah.
and Xi Jinping's China.
Yeah.
Right? That's quite literally what this was. And you would look at this and you'd think, oh, maybe it's just about stopping the war. It's this
Yeah.
weird meeting of minds where
Yeah.
we can both agree that war is bad, right?
Yeah.
But when you go into the protests, there's photos that were being shared around, right?
Okay.
You look at actually what was going on here. By the way, Libertarian Party
Yeah.
of Georgia posted this today.
Taiwan
Taiwan
is
is a part of China. What is this timeline?
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
So anyway,
Yeah.
you go in here and I used to be in the Libertarian Party because I'm also for small government, right?
Sure.
I don't like government meddling, all that kind of stuff. But
Why are they supporting government meddling?
Government meddling from Russia and China, two of the biggest world governments with
Yeah.
huge control. Doesn't even make sense, right?
No.
Anyway, you look at these pictures of protests going around, right?
Yeah.
And you zoom in.
Yeah.
You look at the sign here, right? And this is something this is an institute that was interfacing with Code Pink, right?
Yeah.
Look at this. It's literally a picture of Putin and Xi Jinping.
And those are the BRICS countries. See,
Those are the BRICS
Cyril
countries, yes.
Ramaphosa and all that
The U.S.
shit.
must join the new paradigm, and it has like the Chinese space thing and high-speed rail.
Yeah.
What you're actually looking at here is an event that was being frequented at and spoken at by ultra left-wing organizations and ultra right-wing organizations as well, by the way, it turns out.
Yeah.
And they are talking about how it's bad to criticize the CCP and Russia and to stop the war, but only if that means that the West can't support Ukraine. That's actually what that meant.
Yeah.
And it really, remember, go back to that, you don't have to go back, but the billions being spent on Chinese propaganda for Russia, especially in regards to the war, and everything starts to make sense.
Yeah.
And it's super, super messed up. And that's why, guys, I never want you to think that I'm alienating either side. I'm very much a centrist.
Does it literally say shill at the bottom of that?
Yeah, it does. It says like Schiller Institute or something. The shills.
Is it
anyway,
shilling maybe?
Winston and I both differ politically, but we can both absolutely get behind the fact that it doesn't matter what side you're on.
Yeah.
From Matt Gaetz's foible in Congress to Alaskan Prepper to all of these so-called patriot websites to certain political affiliations going more towards supporting Russia, toward having some political organizations going more towards China. We can all agree that both Winston and I see a heavy influence of China-Russia propaganda across the board.
Yeah.
And it's not your fault if you fall for it.
Yeah, you just don't see it.
You don't see it, but be aware of it.
You
It's
have
happening all around us, and it's pretty wild.
Yeah. You should, honestly, there needs to be a little bit of national unity rather than division. And you need to be able to see past your differences. And you know, the weird thing about America is what you see in the news and all this hyped up bullshit you always see, it doesn't reflect real life.
No.
Living here has taught me that, you know. You get people that are going to be very left wing and very right wing. You get them, but in general, people just kind of get along, you know. And it sucks to see countries like China and Russia like dividing, just shoving that wedge between people.
The Libertarian Party saying Taiwan is a part of China in Georgia. What
does that have to do with them?
So small government party, you're latching onto one of the most authoritarian governments in the world for their control. The whole point of Libertarian Party is they're non-interventionists. So you want them to intervene in Taiwan?
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
What does that even mean? Right?
I mean, just repeating Chinese propaganda is a bad idea. You know what I mean? It's pretty disheartening to see this stuff take hold.
Yes.
But hopefully, we've enlightened a few people to the point where you start to check your sources and you start to actually question
your sources. Question motivations.
Yeah, exactly.
You know? I just feel like we're in a weird, bizarre timeline where it's hard to understand what you're seeing.
Yeah.
But you have to make that decision for yourself. But I say do not ever be above questioning what you're reading. Don't ever be above questioning what you're consuming. And maybe something you've been consuming for a while is actually not what you think it is.
Yeah, and remember, when you're taking and looking at propaganda from a foreign government and you're using that foreign propaganda to attack your own country and government, there's something wrong with that.
Yeah.
You know, you should be focusing on fixing the problems in your own country by, with your fellow countrymen, and your whatever, political party you're a part of. Latch onto it. Do what you need to do. It doesn't matter. But don't be listening to an authoritarian government, which, by the way, has the worst track record when it comes to freedoms and actual political freedoms especially.
Yep.
You cannot vote in China. You can't choose what the leaders do. No matter how much they try to tell you there's this whole process, democracy, it's bullshit.
Bullshit.
You can't do anything in China.
China has a 9 out of 100 on the Freedom House Index,
Yeah,
guys.
it's terrible.
9 out of 100.
So don't be taking their words and, running with them.
Because I wanted to give an example of, you don't think China latched onto that little protest inside of the House hearing?
Well, here's Shanghai Daily, by the way.
State media.
Yeah, state media. Let's see what
China
state media
Committee?
has to say.
Interrupted.
All right, what did they say?
Activists in Washington, D.C. were arrested today after disrupting the first Select Committee hearing on economic cooperation with China.
So, of course, they covered it.
Mm-hmm.
it's a little beneficial, I think. And I'm starting to get mad skeptical about this whole thing. Keep your eyes on it, guys. I honestly think that this is getting out of control. This is getting out of control.
Oh yeah, yeah.
You know? It was a select committee on the strategic competition between the U.S. and the Chinese Communist Party.
So yeah, I actually watched a little bit of that. I didn't watch the whole thing. I caught a bit of it live. It seemed like they were on point with a lot of their.
It was great, and I love to see the bipartisan movement. Again, the Republican Party and the Democrat Party. It doesn't matter which one you belong to. You just have to understand what's true and what's good.
Oh yeah, I forgot that there's another whole section to this. Canada.
Yeah, there is another whole section of this. By the way, before we get into that, I just wanted to point something out. Something you're going to have to understand is that a lot of this stuff is going to be coming from the Chinese embassy in Ottawa, Canada. And I wanted to do a little throwback to back when they were pushing the Winter Olympics in Beijing, and the Chinese embassy in Ottawa tweeted at me. I believe, after I asked people like that, I asked a swath of people that are more familiar with Twitter and stuff like that. And they said it was probably to scare me, to say, yes, we're aware of you. They literally took a random tweet and they tweeted at me about
Well, it's a comprehensive COVID plan. And it's probably because you're getting some press for the whole lab leak theory video, maybe.
I also think it was because I was covering the Olympics.
Yeah,
but anyway, they added me, and it was hilarious. Anyway, the Chinese embassy in Ottawa denied any election interference. If you guys know, there is some speculation, and something is being alleged that there might have been election interference from the CCP into Canada's elections, and that's all part of this.
Yeah, believe it or not, they're currently investigating some serious allegations when it comes to election interference by the Chinese government.
Yep.
And so that's currently ongoing. We don't know what the result of that will be, but something interesting has come up through all of this, and it has to do with Justin Trudeau, and it has to do with what's his name, Han Dong or something? Han Dong.
Yeah, it's coming.
It's coming. Yeah. Anyway, so the Chinese embassy in Ottawa denied any election interference. We are not interested in meddling with Canada's internal affairs, nor have we ever tried to do so, the embassy said in an email. And that's some bullshit right there. Okay, because the Chinese government has historically been interested through its United Front.
It's what they do. It's one of the biggest government bodies in the whole world is called the United Front, and their job is to meddle in international affairs.
They do it in Australia. They do it in America. They do it. What do you think all those police station things are all about? Why are they always like bribing politicians or honey trapping them or whatever the case? It's something they do. It's not a secret.
It's their job.
Yeah. So what happened with old Trudeau over here?
So basically what happened is that the super succinct version, because we're going to run out of time otherwise, is that back in the 2019 elections, there was a candidate named Han Dong that was part of Trudeau's party, right?
And now he's a Chinese-born
Canadian.
From Shanghai, So he naturalized and became a Canadian citizen
and that's whatever, right?
Yeah.
I think... I won't get into that, but that's a whole nother thing. I support a lot of Chinese interaction from naturalized citizens because I think they understand China a lot better, right?
It's
especially if their allegiance is to the U.S. or Canada.
Sure.
Anyway, that notwithstanding, what happened is the intelligence organization of Canada,
CIA of Canada,
CSIS is called, right? They reached out and said, "Listen, be careful with this dude, Han Dong. We're investigating him, right?" Because, why? It had nothing to do with anything other than the fact that it looked kind of suspicious that he could potentially be interfacing with the CCP.
I'm sure they had their reasons.
They had their reasons,
but
right?
they warned him,
right? Long story short, there's obviously some sort of inquiry going on into that, right?
Yeah.
So I dug up some older articles, and I think that's more telling than the drama that's unfolding now. It says, according to Global News, that's Canada's news agency.
Not Global Times.
Not Global Times.
Yeah.
CSI, maybe that's what Matt Gaetz got wrong.
Yeah.
CSIS believes the consulate was behind a large financial transaction to at least 11 federal election candidates and Chinese government-affiliated operatives who work as campaign staffers. So it's 250,000 Canadian. It's $185,000 US. Was allegedly transferred through a provincial Ontario lawmaker and staffer to a federal election candidate. The election interference efforts have been tied to the Communist Party's United Front Work Department. Now, that's very important. You guys understand this is one of the most sinister branches of government in the world.
Yeah, the United Front. Yeah.
It's made to destabilize and hurt and infiltrate governments around there. I know it sounds tinfoil hat. It's literally their job.
That is their job, and it's there to influence people, like the Confucius Institutes and stuff. They all fall under the United Front.
Yep.
They're there to monitor people on campus and to make sure that nothing that goes against the Chinese government is taught. If a Dalai Lama or something is going to come, they're the guys who are there to prevent that from happening.
Yep. An organization in Beijing that monitors and attempts to influence Chinese nationals abroad. It not only does that, influence everything abroad.
Yeah.
The United Front operations are also linked to a clandestine network of illegal police stations operating in Canada across the globe. You guys probably remember we did extensive coverage of the illegal police stations that China had set up in sovereign countries.
Yeah, exactly.
David Mulroney, Canada's former ambassador to China, said the allegations were far more aggressive than previously suspected. And I like this quote. Just when you think some allegations against China are exaggerated, you find out that they've in fact been understated.
Yes.
These represent a malicious and dangerous threat to our democracy. Election interference attempts have targeted members from both the Liberal and Conservative parties. This is widespread, right? And this is not just. I think there's a huge problem that people have. They think China or Russia represents their political party in some way.
No, they represent everything.
China and Russia don't give a shit about your political party. They hate Republicans, they hate Democrats, they hate conservatives, they hate liberals. They want to spread dissent.
Yeah, and so they target all of them.
Yes.
So,
we had evidence of interference in the last general election through proxies that were spreading disinformation on Chinese language social media platforms, something we've run into.
Yep.
Which interfered in a number of electoral districts with significant Chinese communities, the Conservative MP Michael Chong told The Guardian. Now, this is something we saw throughout TikTok, really across the board, Chinese language media in Western countries that were targeting Chinese diaspora to vote in a certain way, and that could be liberal or conservative.
It happens a lot. Like in America and Canada, various other places, you will have Chinese newspapers that are locally printed.
Yeah.
The Chinese Communist Party spent a lot of money to take over those organizations. Maybe previously they were run by the diaspora. Maybe they were run by Taiwanese or something. But they actually buy them out so they can print all the pro-CCP stuff in there. And then what they also do is through WeChat and Xiaohongshu and all these apps that most Chinese people in the diaspora use daily, they kind of infiltrate that with a lot of propaganda and a lot of interference. And like, you must vote for this person, you must vote for that person, don't vote for that person,
Yeah.
that type of thing.
Yeah, so just move on.
I'll move on.
So this is from a few months prior, right? Mm-hmm. Now we get into this this whole thing about the CSIS warning Justin Trudeau about one of his candidates, right?
Yeah.
David Vigneault, I don't know how to pronounce French.
Yeah, Vigneault.
Vigneault, the head of Canada's intelligence agency, told the hearing on Thursday that the Chinese Communist Party's United Front Work Department, remember that's the really scary kind of...
Aren't they financed more than their normal foreign
They are
affairs?
financed more than their foreign ministry.
Yeah.
So this is like China's, when they say we don't want to meddle in international affairs, it's their biggest part of their budget.
They want to meddle in other people's internal affairs. Yeah.
Yes. A unit dedicated to foreign interference. And that is a correct quote.
Oh, yeah.
So let's have a look at this. This is, and again, we are not going to take a permanent stance on this right now because it's being alleged at the moment. And we'll wait for the investigation.
So,
we have a couple points.
So the Canadian CIA, CSIS or whatever it's called, basically warned the Trudeau cabinet, or whatever you want to call it, said, hey, listen, this guy, probably be careful because he might have ties to the Communist Party of China.
Yeah.
Trudeau and them, they said, piss off, we're not going to listen to you. We have every right to let him run, which they do. And so they let him run and he got into office. So what is he? He's currently in the Canadian government, right? So what position does he have?
Which?
Handong.
Currently? Yeah. I just got to pull up. A member of parliament.
So he's a member of parliament.
Yeah.
Okay, so
for Don Valley North, that's the area.
Okay, so he's currently in the government. So now, potentially and allegedly, this guy is now in the government, could have ties
to the United Front.
Yeah, that's the allegation.
Again, we don't know yet.
So because news came to light that they were warned about him, now the press is asking Trudeau, hey, listen, what's the deal here? Is this safe? Is this a good idea? And Trudeau's answer is kind of worrying.
Warned, and you chose to dismiss it for those reasons. Just wanted some clarification.
Once again, one of the things we've seen, unfortunately, over the past years is a rise in anti-Asian racism linked to the pandemic and concerns being arisen around people's loyalties. I want to make everyone understand fully that Han Dong is an outstanding member of our team, and suggestions that he is somehow not loyal to Canada should not be entertained.
Okay, so that's a big problem that we have over there, right?
Yeah, I mean, you don't. This is a problem, is that we are more than willing to wait for the allegations to either be true or not, right?
But don't cry racism.
Don't cry racism.
Not anti-Asian.
When something
hate.
from your intelligence agency is warning you about something, you don't start linking this to Asian hate, because that is something the CCP is currently doing.
I mean, think about it. If there was a Russian Canadian,
Yeah.
and he's potentially tied to the KGB or something like that, and they bring that up. Obviously, KGB doesn't exist anymore, but the current version of that, and they bring that up. You don't throw racism out there.
No,
it's got nothing to do with the race of the guy. It's got to do with the potential connections to a foreign government influence operation. And that's very disheartening. And this Han Dong guy, I mean, again, it's just alleged, but if you look at his actions, you might start to believe that he's
Well, again, alleged. Investigation,
alleged.
let it finish. But we pulled up a couple of things that just made us have a couple of alarm bells. Well, that's all I'll say.
In February of this year, he skipped the House votes to condemn the Uyghur genocide.
Now, you don't have to go to every vote, right?
Yeah.
But there's a problem. There's a little bit of a clarification with that.
Yeah. He missed voting on one of the Uyghur genocide motions, despite being present to vote on other motions before and after it on the same day. So he voted on the one, the Uyghur genocide one comes, I'm out. And then the next thing he's like, oh, I'm back. It's a little sus. It's just a little sus.
So we're not going to say anything until the investigation's over, but I think it was, and I like that Justin Trudeau said he welcomed the investigation, because what else are you going to do? You're going to look like an idiot if you don't.
100%, I do stand with Trudeau with the fact that, you shouldn't, go after somebody because of where they come from or anything.
Yeah, and you should not ever
and he's a Canadian.
And you should never let your federal bodies like CIA, FBI, CSIS dictate who goes into office. That is not how democracy works.
But don't call on this racism shit, because that's
bullshit.
That's just the CCP's way of dealing with this.
And that's cheap. It's a cheap shot, because what it does is it scares away people that might want to look into something for the fairness of their democracy. There are Chinese Canadians in Canada that are fighting against CCP influence.
Yeah.
And if one of the people in government is coming into question, they're going to be the first people to back that investigation. You better believe it.
Oh, yeah.
Because they're trying to fight for CCP influence to leave the country so that dissidents can be safe, right? Don't cry racism. It's bullshit.
Yeah, absolutely. Anyway, so again, we're just looking at the scope of interference that we're finding across the entire world when it comes to the Chinese Communist Party.
Yeah, whether it's passive or right in your face.
Exactly.